Hi everybody! So in today's video we are going to be looking at what are called multi-step equations, which means that we're going to be looking at equations that take multiple steps to solve. When we are solving equations, we generally follow the following steps in the following order. The first thing we usually do is we distribute when necessary. In other words, we distribute if we need to, but sometimes we're not going to need to distribute. The second thing that we usually do is combine like terms if those terms are on the same side of the equal sign. The next step would be to add or subtract depending on which one you need in order to isolate the variable. And finally, we usually multiply or divide depending on which one is necessary in order to finish isolating. So let's take a look at an example where we're going to follow these steps. So I'm looking at the problem that's here in this box, and what I'm seeing is that I'm going to need to start by drawing a vertical line through my equal sign. Now I'm noticing that there's a parentheses with a number on the outside. So I'm going to go ahead and distribute the 3 in order to get rid of that parentheses. So when I do that, I'm going to get 3x plus 4. And I'm just going to drop down the rest of this equation without changing anything. So I would have 2x, which I'm just dropping down, and 37, which again I'm just dropping down without changing anything. Now I'm going to look at what I have left. Based on what I have left, I'm seeing that on the left side of this equation, there are some like terms that I could combine. When I combine those like terms, I get 5x. Once again, I'm just going to drop down the rest of this equation, so the plus 4 and the 37. Next, I'm going to add or subtract in order to isolate the variable. So if I've got an equation that says 5x plus 4 equals 37, I'm going to subtract 4 on both sides in order to undo the plus 4. In other words, subtracting is the inverse operation of adding. Now 37 minus 4 would be 33. And last but not least, I would divide by 5 on both sides in order to get the 5 to go away, because division is the inverse operation for multiplication. Now, since 5 does not go into 33 nicely, I'm going to go ahead and type in 33 divided by 5 on my calculator, and I'm going to write down my decimal answer here, which is 6.6. Okay, now that you've kind of seen this process, distribute, then combine like terms, then add and subtract, then multiply and divide, let's take a look if we can use that in some new problems. Once again, I'm going to start by drawing a vertical line through my equal sign. Now I'm going to ask myself, do I need to distribute in this problem? Since there are no parentheses, I don't need to distribute. Because there are no parentheses. So the next thing I would check is, can I combine any like terms? Now on the left side of this equation, I've got an 8x and a minus 3x, which are like terms. So 8 minus 3 would give me 5x, and I'm just going to drop down the rest of the equation. So minus 10 equals 20. Now I'm going to add or subtract. So add 10 in order to undo subtracting 10. And I get 5x equals 20 plus 10, which is 30. And finally, I'm going to divide by 5 on both sides. Now, the 5 and the 5 are going to cancel, so I get x equals 30 divided by 5, which is 6. So if I were to write in words what I did here, I combined like terms on the left side. I added 10 on both sides because that is the inverse of subtracting. And I divided by 5 on both sides because that is the inverse of multiplying. And that's what gave me my final answer. So there are 3 steps to this problem. Let's take a look at another example. So in number 2, I would draw a vertical line through my equal sign. I would again not distribute. I don't need to distribute because there are no parentheses. So I would start by combining the like terms on the left-hand side. Now the invisible number here by this x is a 1. So 9 plus 1 would give me 10x. And then I would just drop down the minus 7 and the 13. Then, in order to undo subtracting 7, I would add 7 on both sides because adding is the inverse of subtracting. And I would get 10x equals 13 plus 7, which makes 20. Finally, I would divide by 10 on both sides because division is the inverse of multiplication, and I would get x equals 20 divided by 10, which is 2. All right, let's do maybe 1 or 2 more examples before we're done here. So let's look at an example where we do need to distribute. For example, number 3 on the next page. So go ahead and turn to the next page. In example number 3, I'm going to start the same way. I'm going to draw a vertical line through my equals sign. Now I'm noticing that this time there is a parentheses, so I'm going to go ahead and distribute the negative 2. When I do that, I get negative 2x minus 12, and I'm going to drop down the 7x and the 23. Now I'm going to check to see if there are any like terms. So 7x and minus 2x are like terms, which means I'm going to combine them, and I'm going to get 5x, then minus 12 equals 23. Just drop the rest of it down. Now I'm going to add 12 on both sides because adding is the inverse of subtracting, and I'm going to get 5x equals 23 plus 12, which is 35. And finally, I'm going to divide by 5 on both sides because division is the inverse of multiplication. And I'm going to get x equals 35 divided by 5, which is 7. We're going to go ahead and do 1 more example, and then we will save the last one for class tomorrow. So in the next problem, I'm going to draw a vertical line through my equal sign. Because there is a parentheses, I'm going to need to distribute. So because this is a fraction, I'm going to kind of go through how to type this in on your calculator. So you're going to hit alpha y equals option 1, 3 over 2. I'm using these arrows over here, so I hit down to get to the denominator and then right. Originally it was like that. I'm hitting a right arrow to get out of there, times 3. And I get 9 over 2x. Now I'm going to type in alpha y equals 3 over 2 times 5. And I'm going to get plus 15 over 2 equals negative 24. Now in order to do, what I would check for next is combining like terms. There are no like terms in this problem, so I'm going to go ahead and subtract 15 over 2 on both sides because subtraction is the inverse of addition. And when I do that, I'm going to drop down the 9 over 2 times x, and on my calculator, I'm going to type in negative 24 minus, and then I'm going to hit alpha y equals 15 over 2, and I get negative 63 over 2. And then finally, I'm going to divide by 9 over 2 on both sides because division is the inverse of multiplication. And I would get x equals, now on my calculator, I'm going to type in alpha y equals negative 63 over 2 divided by alpha y equals 9 over 2, and I should get negative 7. All right, thank you guys all so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful afternoon, and I will see you for some practice next time.